AOC. What? She's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions, in need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her.
Greg Gutfeld just burst onto the political stage with a flamethrower, and his focus is none other than AOC. That's right, Ocasio-Cortez, the ruler of sharp comebacks and social media jabs. But the twist is this time she isn't throwing the punches, she's taking the hits. So what did Greg reveal that left everyone shocked? Trust me, this isn't only politics, it's comedy chaos, and maybe even career-breaking truth bombs all packed into one.
There is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this. The Republican caucus threatened my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of...
If you're having fun, make sure to follow the channel. It supports more than you might think. Greg Gutfeld exposing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is less a political attack and more a stand-up routine disguised as current affairs, because if you've ever watched AOC in motion, you know she plays the role of the self-appointed Marvel hero of Congress cape, not needed, Instagram filter guaranteed.
She gets along with Bernie is because she's like an 80-year-old leftist in a used bookstore. I mean, she may look fresh, but she's as stale as an abandoned futon on the street. It's like, I listen to her, I go, I heard that at Berkeley in 1983. So their problem is, and the reason why they don't have any ideas is they operate on half opinions. Like, what if we get rid of cash bail? Oh, let's do it. What happens? You have repeat criminals wreaking havoc. What if we have sanctuary cities? Hey, let's do it. What happens? You have rapists and killers, finding sanctuary, safe haven. What if we...
She will save the world, wipe out poverty, solve inequality, and maybe even show your cat how to do yoga all before lunch. Then Gutfeld arrives and listens to her speeches and figures this is not politics, this is stand-up night, and he is the one bringing the final drop.
I love how she explains it. They're not meant for you, right? But then you have to ask, okay, then what is this debt forgiveness? Who is it meant for? And when you look at the data, it's upper white middle class liberal women. This ain't welfare, right? These are well-to-do people. It's a bribe for Democrats on the backs of plumbers, truckers, and everyone else who actually does a real job, unlike me. AOC is the symbol of the entitled sponge. She complains about student loans, but she owns a Tesla.
The most hilarious part is how obvious it always turns out. AOC storms in acting like the defender of the poor and working people, speaking about rooftop farms and unlimited giveaways, while Greg Gutfeld comes across like the witty uncle at a holiday dinner who never lets any grand scheme pass without a remark.
Think about what their ideas incentivize. That would be nice. So where are their ideas going to come from? Trump. The only way they're going to create a message is based on whatever Trump does. So I have some slogans for the Democrat Party.
Oh, wow.
The Democrat Party, when you're tired of success. Okay. The Democrat Party, make America suck again. Democrat Party, the first choice for illegals, vandals, and dead people.
He doesn't go after her with data charts or policy papers. Instead, he flips her whole act around like pizza dough and slides it right into the comedy oven. Suddenly her billion-dollar plans sound less like government policy and more like a teenager maxing out a credit card at a makeup store. But this is more than jokes, it's exposure, because when Greg breaks it down, he isn't only mocking AOC's theatrics, he's pulling back the curtain on the contradictions that make her both the internet's favorite activist and Congress' most creative scriptwriter, like how she blasts capitalism while streaming in expensive hoodies, sipping kombucha that costs more than a family's groceries. And here is where it gets interesting. Gutfeld doesn't just roast her positions, he shows that her biggest wins, mostly live on social media to him, AOC's TikToks, are less about lawmaking and more like stage performance. Yes, she's in Congress, but her real office is Instagram Live, complete with ring lights, rehearsed outrage, and a cheering comment section like she's headlining a music festival. When Greg points this out, it cuts deep, because it feels like he's saying what everyone suspects but won't say out loud. Maybe she's more influencer than legislator.
First, she owns a French bulldog. Thanks to Cat Temp, I know everything about French bulldogs. And one thing I know,
I got a French bulldog.
They are so expensive. They're more expensive than any college tuition. That you got to take care of them. They're adorable dogs. But she owns a Tesla and she owns a French bulldog, and she wants you or your dad, the electrician, to forgive her student loan. That's BS. turn in the Tesla, sell the dog. I'll buy it.
And the receipts, oh, he's got them, he loves showing how the Green New Deal, her prize project, is less an actual plan, and more a wish list that looks like a teenager's dream board: free healthcare, free college guarantee jobs, maybe even free pets. The catch, of course, is figuring out who pays for it. All AOC points at billionaires and corporations like there's some endless buffet, while Gutfeld calmly reminds her that math is real. Suddenly the paradise she describes looks more like your broke cousins. Venmo request: ambitious, heartfelt, but completely unrealistic. It's emotional, sure, maybe even motivating, but once you strip away the buzzwords, it's as flimsy as IKEA furniture put together without directions. The reaction to these takedowns is always funny. On one side, conservatives treat Gutfeld's jokes like gospel, passing around clips of him mocking her climate math like it was a missing book of scripture. On the other side, progressives rush to defend her as if she's the final barrier against the end of the world, insisting Greg is just being cruel.
Meantime, AOC has taken a break from doing nothing to get into a beef with the Twitter chief. On Tuesday, she tweeted LMAO at a billionaire earnestly trying to sell people on the idea that free speech is actually an $8 a month subscription plan. That's a reference to Musk's plan to charge people $8 a month for verified blue checkmark status. But he hit back tweeting, "Your feedback is appreciated. Now pay $8. To be fair.
And in the middle, regular people are cracking up, because honestly, watching Gutfeld go up against AOC is more entertaining than most comedies on Netflix. But this is where it cuts deeper, because behind the sarcasm sits a truth that stings. Humor has always been one of the sharpest political tools, and Greg uses it like a scalpel. He doesn't just slam AOC's policies, he exposes the way she sells them, how the marketing, the image, and the social media hype drown out the messy reality. He shows how her slogans shine in a tweet but fall apart when it comes to real governing, and that kind of exposure hits hard, not because it's harsh, but because it's true. Greg gets through because he says the quiet part out loud: is this Congress or a TikTok house? The timing makes it even juicier in an age where politics basically doubles as entertainment. AOC plays the influencer, and Gutfeld plays the critic who flips the whole show into a roast, and like any good roast, the laughter isn't only about the punchline. It's about the uncomfortable truth hiding underneath it.
To be fair, she'd love to spend the $8, but she already bought a Tesla. He also tweeted a photo of some ugly AOC merch she's trying to hawk for $58. Overpriced merch, AOC. Seems pretty capitalistic of you, which according to you makes you evil. And according to anyone paying attention, also makes you full of.
When he jokes about her economic numbers, he's really revealing how unrealistic some of her big promises are. When he laughs at her working class image, he's showing the gap between her words and her lifestyle. When he rips into her Instagram activism, he's uncovering how politics has turned into performance instead of real solutions. And then comes the reaction. AOC, who never avoids a Twitter fight, usually fires back in ways that only make the blaze bigger, whether she repeats her point or shifts into moral outrage. Her replies usually keep the drama alive instead of ending it, which just hands Gutfeld more material. It's an endless cycle. AOC says something, Greg mocks it, she replies, Greg mocks the reply. It's political ping pong, and the crowd keeps laughing. The larger point is clear. He's reminding people that politics isn't just about catchy lines, it's about what actually works. And if you can't explain how to fund your paradise, then maybe it's not a paradise, maybe it's just a post.
I mean, first of all, $80 per theater. I made $80 in a theater, and there wasn't even a movie playing.
Wow. What do you mean?
I don't know. It's no surprise. Who would go see a movie that's the opposite of entertaining? There's nothing entertaining about that. Michael Moore's colonoscopy is more entertaining than that, because there's probably more twists. But it does show you how great it is to be a progressive in a liberal biased culture. She really doesn't do her job, right? She makes movies, she goes to galas, she sits for glossy butt-kissing interviews in GQ and other women's mags.
And that's why these takedowns hit so hard. They're not only funny, they're revealing. They slice through the noise of emotional pleas and Instagram speeches to show the cracks underneath. And the reason people enjoy watching it is because deep down everyone is worn out from being sold fairy tales without proof. Greg Gutfeld just happens to deliver it with a joke attached. By the time the dust settles, AOC's brand might still survive since she feeds off attention, good or bad, but once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Maybe that's the real exposure, not one single moment, not one critique, but the gradual breakdown of the illusion. Greg Gutfeld takes the shiny magazine cover of AOC, tears it off, and shows the raw reality behind it. And once you notice her influence comes less from policy and more from performance, the whole act feels a lot less convincing, which honestly is both hilarious and unsettling at the same time.
So it is funny. That's mean. You're
right,
mean. You're being mean.
But I'm fascinated they thought there was an audience for this outside of Earth Justice. or the Justice Democrats, because who really wanted to go and see this thing? And then tomorrow you'll have an article that we'll have to talk about, which is that kids all over America are having nightmares about climate change. Well, no wonder.
Jessica, what about the fact that the climate activists are very much, they're very much enthused about what they do. And
if this is just one round of Greg versus AOC, imagine what's coming next, because politics isn't slowing down, and neither are the jokes. Let's be real, Greg Gutfeld versus AOC isn't a single event, it's an ongoing sitcom. Every time she posts, talks, or even makes noise on Capitol Hill, Greg is basically right there with a pen ready to spin it into the punchline of the night. This isn't politics anymore, it's improv comedy. Paid for by taxpayers, take her fixation on being the voice of the working class. She paints herself as Rosie the Riveter, 20 fists raised ready to battle the billionaires. It's the kind of reveal that makes you laugh and cringe at the same time, like noticing your gym membership has been draining your account for 3 years, and you've never touched a treadmill. And then there's her climate warrior persona to her global warming, is basically a Marvel villain, huge, dramatic, unstoppable, unless she gets an Avengers-sized budget to fight it. The Green New Deal in her vision is the Infinity Gauntlet. Snap her fingers, and suddenly emissions vanish, planes fly on good vibes, and every building in America gets remodeled like a home makeover show.
AOC was on 60 Minutes last night. Quite a feat for a newcomer. Must be all her great new ideas.
People are going to have to start paying their fair share in taxes. Once you get to like the tippy tops, on your $10 millionth dollar, sometimes you see tax rates as high as 60 or 70%.
What an expression. Now, the real story isn't AOC's very old ideas. It's the media's gushy view of her. Even with her old ideas, she gets on 60 Minutes. The past is called the future, and you better love it.
Gutfeld, of course, looks at it and says, nice dream, but how exactly are we paying for this? Selling t-shirts? Suddenly the big plan sounds less like real legislation and more like a crowdfunding pitch with stretch goals that promise to end poverty and hand out unicorns. The genius of Greg's style is that he doesn't debate like a policy nerd, he mocks it like a comic. He doesn't say the math is wrong, he says the math looks like it was scribbled on a bar napkin after 2 margaritas. He doesn't say the plan is missing details, he says it has as much detail as a child's crayon sketch of a house. That's why his takedowns spread so widely, because they stick in your head like a joke you can't shake. And while her fans cheer her on, Gutfeld just laughs and spins it into more comedy fuel. It's like trying to win a water balloon fight against someone carrying a flamethrower. You bring passion, but he brings fire. What's even funnier is how the press reacts. Progressive outlets scramble to defend her, calling Greg unfair or brushing him off.
His delightful dancing video from last week. The media created a fake story that conservatives attacked her over this delightful trifle. Not really. In fact, the only stories written about the dance were by liberals using it to falsely smear the right. So the press creates a shield around her in which any criticism must be due to sexism or bigotry, when in fact it's in their heads and not ours. But this strategy works by preventing real criticism about her actual beliefs, which are retreads of horrible ideas from previous centuries. Socialism with a smile, fascism among friends, Venezuela meets vegan.
Meanwhile, conservative media blasts his jokes everywhere, practically turning them into bumper stickers, and the rest of us are sitting back with popcorn watching the strangest buddy comedy play out. One plays the activist turned influencer, the other plays the sarcastic late-night uncle, and together they've built a show that's somehow more entertaining than anything Netflix has released in years. The bigger question is what this all means for politics. On one side, AOC feeds on attention, whether it's applause or criticism. Every clapback meme and viral clip only locks in her role as a cultural figure, but once the illusion slips, the magic is gone. That's why these moments carry more weight than they seem. They're not just laughs, they're political wake-up calls dressed as jokes. They remind us that slogans are not solutions, Instagram fans are not legislation, and fiery speeches do not balance budgets. And maybe, just maybe, they remind AOC that being an internet star doesn't automatically make you a congressional leader.
YouGov poll says AOC has 61% approval rating for Democrats, right? The highest of any Democrat unless they've been elected president. So if your new brand ambassador is going to be AOC, then I think it's more than just the messaging and the branding.
So by now you heard that AOC, among others, were arrested last night. She truly is an American hero. It was brutal, taken out in cuffs. Well, technically, her shirt had cuffs. Maybe French cuffs, as she did surrender without fight.
But hey, race the twist, she will keep doing it because AOC without the drama, without the flair, without the Instagram lives isn't really AOC, and Gutfeld will keep calling it out because without her he loses half his jokes. It's the strangest symbiotic setup in politics. She gives him material, he gives her relevance, and the rest of us get to laugh through the madness. So buckle up because this story isn't wrapping up anytime soon. Every new plan, every new social media stunt, every new fiery speech is just another episode waiting for Greg to turn into comedy gold. And if you thought this round was rough, wait for the next, because if AOC is the influencer of politics, Greg Gutfeld is the full-time heckler who never leaves the stage. And in this comedy club called Washington, the mic is always hot, the punchlines are always sharp, and the exposure never stops.